Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? I hope you guys can see us and hear us okay. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. We are hanging out here, and we are trying out something that's fun in terms of oh doing our pillow talk in a little bit of a different framework. We're actually
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
oh
What's going on?
let me mute myself. We're actually live on Zoom. And so if you're on drboycetv.com, you will see Alicia and I talking together, which is not the way we normally do our pillow talks. Our typical pillow talks we do are based on us laying in bed together, literally, and talking in bed. But today
No
we decided,
video. No
yeah,
video.
today
We're
we
in
decided to
bed.
do Zoom, and we were just messing around with Zoom, and there's all these like crazy little filters that we can do. And what do you think, babe? You want to do one of those little immersive backgrounds?
Yeah, let's try one.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's do that one.
Which
There,
one did
okay,
you?
here we go. All right. So I don't know what that looks like on YouTube, but
Your face is kind of grainy. What's
doesn't my
going on
face
with your
looks
face?
grainy?
Yeah,
Oh,
why
okay,
is it my
okay.
face grainy?
I don't know, but what's also funny is I don't think that the immersive backgrounds go through all the way through to Zoom. So that's a little piece of information that we. Oh wait, it does. Okay, there it is. All right. So it does appear like that on Zoom, but you are right. It doesn't come through all the way. All
Yeah,
right.
why
So go
earlier
ahead.
it was very clear earlier. I don't know why all of a sudden it's not.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
All right. So how's everybody doing today? I hope you guys are doing well. So we were debating something, and we want to get your opinion on some of this. How many of you give me a yes or no in the chat? How many of you saw that whole conversation with the lady who basically took her man off child support and was explaining why she took him off child support, basically saying I took him off child support because it was kind of messing up the relationship and it was causing chaos and turmoil and you're right, I am grainy. It's kind of
You
crazy,
know what?
right?
I wonder, did you say you have a
I
virtual?
I got it. I got it. I know
You
what it
got it.
is.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have a green
So
screen? I have a green screen. I bet that's what you.
yeah, yeah, I agree. So I'm getting it fixed. But the topic, let's talk about the topic. All right. So the thing is, there was a whole conversation about the woman who claimed that she was taking her son's child or her child's son or her child's father. Sorry, I keep messing up these Freudian slips. Her child's father off child support because she feels that that child support was causing too many problems and that she wanted to help him. And then she talks about how she looked up his, the requirements for him to get his CDL so he could drive a truck and stuff like that. And a lot of you had a lot to say about that, and we talked about that, in terms of whether or not that was a heroic move on her part, or if that was something that was a little bit too much coddling, or something in between. And so we did a whole pillow talk about it, and you guys can actually go to boyceandaliciatv.com if you want to see that video. But you had some other thoughts about that in terms of the dangers of taking the parent off child support. Now, I'd be curious to hear that perspective. What do you think, babe?
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this again because there's so many different layers to this. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. She's supporting him and he wants to start his business. And I said, God, that is just like, I don't know if I could do that. That's really heroic of her. And I said, wow, how supportive is she of her child's father to help him get started and do better for the entire family? And then I listened to her talk again. And then the second time around, I got a little, I felt that she was pretty frustrated and maybe a little kind of upset because she felt that the child support issue, because you have to listen to what she said. She said the child support is causing strife between the two of us. Or I don't remember exactly what her words were, but she said the issue of child support was causing the two of them to disagree or to have some sort of conflict, and it wasn't co-parenting. So, that made me wonder. And then when I listened to her again, I also noticed that she looked up how to get him a better job so that he could do better. So it's almost like, because I know child support court. So I've worked with a lot of divorce cases where the child support is disputed in Illinois. And so I'm pretty familiar with how it goes. So you get, you pay child support based on how much money, your income. So if you are the non-custodial parent, you pay child support based on your income, okay, up to a certain amount, right? And and if the more money you make, the more money you pay in child support. That's how it should be, right? Don't you think that, Boyce? The more money you make, the more you pay in child support. So you can't be a millionaire and then you have a child who you gave child support when you were just making scraps, and you keep that child support the same. The child support that you pay, the financial that you pay, should be relatable, or it should be commiserate to the amount of income that you make, right? That makes sense because that's your child, and your child.
It makes sense. It makes sense. But I kind of want, you had a perspective that I hadn't thought about, and I thought that for this pillow talk, I want to focus on your perspective on that.
Yeah,
because I feel like hold on, give me a second there. I feel like what you're saying, the point that really got to me that you made that really made me say, okay, maybe we need to talk about this, is you mentioned something I hadn't thought about, which is that the child could be harmed if you take the other parent off child support, because that could be almost like a corporate buyout, like I'm buying you out, like, because I'm now taking all the financial responsibility. And we talk all the time when I talk to folks about money. Money is power. So if I say, look, don't you worry about it, don't you pay for nothing, I got this, I could actually be setting you up for parental alienation, because then I can say, well, you ain't paying nothing up in here, so why you got to know what's going on in this house? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, what I was trying to get to is that you do pay child support based on how much money you make, and that makes sense. And so she's trying to help him to pay more money, so that to earn more money, so that he pays more money in child support. All of that makes sense. And the part that got me was the fact that she took, she's taking the lead role in making sure that her baby's father can make more money and do all these great things. So upon looking at it again, I kind of was a little concerned about just her tone, and she just seemed very frustrated. So after we did the pillow talk, I thought about it even more, and I remembered that there was some research out there done on child support, the issue of child support. And so I kind of looked through that again, and then it just came to me just like that. I don't think that you have the right to take your child's parent off of child support. I don't think she has the right to do that. It's not her place to take the parent, her baby's father, off of child support. That child support is not for her. The child support is for the child. Okay, it's called child support. And that child, her son, deserves support in all different ways. That child deserves to have a relationship with his father. That child deserves to receive income, to receive money from the child, from the father, to support him and the overhead, the bills, wherever child support goes to. So the child deserves to receive whatever support from the non-custodial parent, just deserves that. And so I felt like that was a little unfair of her, because she is having an issue around child support. She feels like she's taken the high road, and she said it was what did she say? It was an awakening that she had. She called it an awakening. What did she call it, Boyce? Like, I had an epiphany that the best co-parenting thing that I can do is to just like remove him from it. So instead of working through the difficulties that both of them were having in terms of child support, instead of working through it, it's almost like, just forget it. Just forget the whole child support thing. You need to get a better job, and then I'm just going to keep you off the hook. And I think that's not her place to say that.
Remember, we didn't hear his perspective, so we don't know if he's agreeing to this or not. I'm assuming that if she announced it on the internet in a video that's probably been viewed by 5-10 million people by now, I'm assuming that they talked about it and he was aware of what's going on. I doubt if he was surprised by her announcement. I know it probably got 5 million views, because it probably got 1 million views on our platform by itself. And I think that, I think that what I really thought was interesting was first of all, just making the video by itself, I feel was condescending. Like you're talking about somebody else's business, and I know as a man, I would be a little embarrassed if the mother of my child went on the internet and said, "This is why I took Boyce off child support," or whatever. I just feel like that's not her place to do that. Now, so
it's not her place. Yeah, it's not her place to make that video and post her business on social media, and it's also not her place to take them off of child support. That's not her place. And you don't.
Wait a minute. But what if he agreed? Like, what if he said, "Okay, thank you"? And a lot of men, I saw a lot of men who were real happy with that. Like they felt like that was great. Like, oh yeah, finally a real one that. And I challenged that thinking, because people don't understand that a lot of life is what they call a zero-sum game, meaning if you're not paying any bills, somebody still got to pay those bills. The bills don't go away just because you stop paying, right? The bills are still there. Somebody's got to pay those bills. So who's paying the bills? So that means that if he's paying nothing, then she's paying all those bills. That right there is a little bit weird to me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. And what happens? What happens if he doesn't pass his CDL license? What if he doesn't pass it? What if he changes his mind? What if she says, "I'm taking you off child support for 6 months. No child support, start your business, start your trucking business, get money for your loads." What if he just doesn't do it?
He ain't gonna pass the CDL. You know why?
What if he doesn't pass it? Then what?
He ain't gonna pass the CDL.
You've been sitting on your tail.
He ain't gonna pass the CDL. Do you know why? I know for a fact that there is a 90.2% chance that he won't pass CDL. You know why? Can anybody guess? Anybody who knows the way I think in the chat, can you guess why I am almost completely convinced that he ain't gonna pass the CDL?
I can guess. Do you want me to guess, or do you want the chat to guess?
I'm gonna let the chat guess. Then I'm gonna let my wife guess, and then I'm gonna give you the answer. Why do y'all think that I listened to her commentary and I said he ain't passing nothing?
He ain't gonna pass it. Then what? Is she gonna be like, "Okay, for 6 months you were sitting on your butt doing nothing, and now you got to pay for the rears"? She can actually go after him for the rears. He better get that in writing. It's a good thing she made the video, because he can say, "Your Honor." She can take
Atlanta's Black Wall Street got the right answer in the chat. Atlanta's Black Wall Street. I've seen you in the chat. Shout out to you, because he didn't even look it up his damn self. She looked it up for him.
Wasn't even his idea.
She used that possessive language. I looked up his CDL, how he could get his CDL. You're so, and you caught me in my Freudian slip. I kept saying she took her son off child support. I said, "Oh, wait a minute, not her son, her man." Because the way she talked about that man is the way you talk about your child. Like, I filled out the college application for my son so that he could get into a good school. Like that. So you're dealing with a man child. I'm sure if he, I don't know the guy. I'm not making fun of him. I don't want him to feel bad. But if your woman is talking about you in this way, where she is doing these things for you like you are her son, I don't understand why you would even let a man like that impregnate you in the first place. Now you got 2 kids instead of 1. That's what I'm seeing. But then again, maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't know.
Let's say more about that, because what happens when you solve other people's problems? What happens when you look at somebody and you see their problem and you say, "Here's the solution. I found the solution for you. Here, all you got to do is show up to it." What happens? What happens, boys? Because we've all done it. When you try to come in and you want to try to save somebody else.
Oh, it doesn't work.
It never works, because
if you work harder, you taught me this as a social worker. You said if you said that that you should never work harder than the person you're trying to help.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if he ain't even took the time to look up his own CDL information, that right there alone says she's working harder at this than him. I'd be curious to ask him, "Is that what you want?" It doesn't sound like that's what he wants, because if a man wants something, he goes and he gets what he wants. He doesn't not say anything, and then somebody else goes and gets what, "Here, you want this." Like that right there is a little bit weird. That's backward. That's a little strange.
Yeah, and yeah, you never work harder than your clients, and that's how goals and things never get done, because you're making all the decisions. You're treating your client like a child, just the way she's kind of treating her baby's father as a child,
Yeah.
doing it for him. And he's a grown adult. He can do it himself. He can make babies. I'm sure he can figure it. He figured out how to get with her. He can figure out how to get a CDL license. And I hate to be so crude about it, but that's just human behavior. That's how human is. And you can only save yourself in this world.
Well,
It comes from within.
what I think too is I wonder, what his relationship was with his mother. Maybe that's the dynamic they've established. My theory on the whole man-child thing is that if you grew up where your mother was always the one doing everything for you and not challenging you to do anything, then you will grow up and you will link up with a woman who is going to take over where your mother left off. And and she's used to that because maybe she grew up in a household where there was no father and she saw her mother do that for her brother, right?
Yeah, and the thing is that happens so much. And I remember when we first started dating, and I used to talk to you about that. I'm like, please don't let me baby my son. Please don't let me do it, because I feel the urge to do it. So I get it. And I want him to be a man. I want him to grow up, but I do tend to coddle. And I just need somebody to tell me to stop it, because that's just a mothering thing that I tend to do. But I
Well, that's
understand
that's what the balance. That's what balance
Yeah.
is supposed to be, right? Balance. To me, balance doesn't mean I tell you to be less of a mother. It just means I intervene when it's time for the father to insert his role in the process. And so I don't think you should feel bad about coddling children. You're a natural nurturer, and that's what makes you amazing. That's what makes you beautiful and wonderful. That's what I love about you, right? So ultimately, what is unfair about, and remember, white supremacy created all this, slavery created all this, these generational curses, this dysfunction. What makes it unfair is when you have women that are just, doing the best they can, trying to figure it out. And it puts you in these awkward scenarios where a woman's trying to figure out how to be the mother and the father at the same time. Like, okay, how do I could teach them how to fix the roof and play football and all that. And for some people, maybe some women like football and they just want to play and they want to rough house and all that. But for a lot of women, it's not in their nature. They're like, I don't want to be a man. I want a man to be a man. Right. But if you have men that are raised by women who had to be part-time male, then it can create like a deformity in the family structure. And to the point where I believe that there are scenarios where women don't know how to respond when a real man does show up. I can think of times. I remember one time I dated a woman.
I'm gonna write my points down.
I dated a woman a long, long time ago, long before you, and who I really feel when she told me about her trail of other boyfriends and the relationship her mother had with her brothers who were both struggling, like just kind of marginalized. I think that it was tough for her to even understand the fact that I had my shit together. I had gone to school. I wasn't in jail. I didn't need her money. I had a full-time job at the time. I was making plenty of money, and I think that was a little bit awkward because I think that she had become so used to compensating, and sort of taking the lead on things. So sometimes we would bump heads because of that. That makes things difficult, So I just think it's unfair, and it just kind of sucks for everybody. I think that it seems to me that with Black families, we have to sort of hit the reset button and define kind of what family means for us, and then also find people who also will play that same game, who won't play with the dysfunction game, who will play the structured family game with us. What do you think?
Yeah, it was 2 points that I made earlier. You were talking about how women want to be both. They want to be the mother and the father. And I think that you can't be both, right? You need someone to be nurturing to you, but you also need someone else to put pressure on you, because how are you going to become anything, right? How are you going to you have to have enough pressure on you so that you want to leave the house. You want to leave you want to go off to college and you want to go off and start your own and put pressure on you to grow up. So you want to have, what is it called when you can't cut the apron strings when it's time for you to launch? failure to launch. You have a lot of failure to launch scenarios because there's not anyone putting pressure on you, because you need to feel pressure, because out of that pressure comes a diamond. Out of that pressure, you'll be so surprised what you can accomplish when your back's against the wall. At least I know I can. And so it's really nice because that's how you grow. And sometimes being too nurturing like that can be very stagnating. It can be stagnant and you won't grow as a person.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I'm looking at Instagram and somebody made an interesting comment. He says that the child support payments may have been stopping him from doing it. So she killed the support to allow more income. In the future, she is thinking futuristic, which is great for a woman. Now, I think that argument can be valid for sure, especially if you switch the genders, right? If you said, there's a scenario where a man said, I'm going to pay for everything so that my wife can have some free income to do blah, 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 right? I think that it seems to me that it does become more awkward because you're talking about a woman doing that for a man. Now, if you believe in this, idealistic idea of equality in genders and in every way, in not just equality, but similarity in genders. I think men and women are equal. I don't think we're the same. If you believe in that similarity, that women can do what men can do, men can do what women can do, then I guess that makes sense. I personally feel that it doesn't make sense because you're talking about a scenario where, again, you still have to pay for the kids. Right? Like you could say, well, I'm going to take you off child support so that you don't have to pay anything. Well, that means she's going to have to pay more because the bills are still going to be there. Right. So I think that part about, I get what people are saying when they applaud that, when they say, thank you for taking him off child support so he can go do this, this, and this. But I think that it comes from a position of kind of me saying, but if people are making these allowances for you, like you're disabled or like you can't, make it work on your own, I don't know if you're necessarily helping the family unit. I just don't feel that way. It feels a little awkward to me. But then again, maybe I'm being too harsh. I know a lot of men get mad when you really push them and challenge them too much. And they, if you say, well, no, he's a man, he should be doing this, this, and this. I see a lot of guys, especially online, who push back against that and don't think that men are supposed to do anything. And I think that's kind of weird to me. I don't get that.
A lot of men I know, they feel good about paying child support. They say,
I don't think men feel good about it. I didn't feel good about it. I did not. I was okay. I don't know with these men who love paying child support. I don't mind taking care of my kids, but I did not enjoy paying child support because I did not enjoy writing a check to the state and having a certain amount of money that had to come out of my check, or I would possibly go to jail. Nobody wants to have the threat of jail hanging over their head in exchange for them providing a certain dollar amount for their children. Men are the only ones who go through that typically. The women don't go through that. If a woman's poor and broke and struggling and her and the kids are homeless, living in the car, ain't nobody going to lock her up because she didn't come up with enough money. Now, they might take the kids away, but they're going to lock her up. So I would say, I'm going to push back a bit, and I'd like to get you, I want you to talk, but I don't know any men anywhere, men in the chat, anybody who paid child support, did you enjoy paying child support? Put a yes or no in the chat if you enjoy paying child support or didn't. Go ahead.
Thank you. I know a lot of men who enjoy paying child support, and because they understand, that they want to take on that financial responsibility. It's their child. They want to be invested in their children. And I also know a lot of men, and they don't have to go through the courts. It sounds like you and your baby mama that had court stuff going on. I don't know about that kind of lifestyle, but you don't have to go through the courts. You could just sit down. The courts are only there if you can't come up with an agreement. So somehow you and your baby's mom back then weren't able to talk to each other and come up with an arrangement on your own, right? So that's where the courts step in. So you don't have to go through the courts and file child support with the state. Like, I've never done that. I don't even know what that's about.
Well, it's not with the, but you still have to go through the courts. Even when you get a divorce, you got to go through courts to do the divorce, to sign off on the divorce and to make it. Well, maybe not. I mean, theoretically you don't, but most divorced couples do have some sort of court arranged scenario, alimony, child support, division of the assets. I mean, that's pretty complicated too. Don't get me wrong. I think baby mama, baby daddy.
It's not through the state. It's not through the state. It's just a set amount that we just agreed on. So, and you just.
But it is signed off by a judge. Am I right? Or is there no judge involved?
It was signed off by the judge. See, it's a two-step process. So you can get the judge to sign off on it when you get divorced, which is what I did. And the second step is you could file through the state and say, okay, state, I get this child support. But I didn't even bother doing that because I trust what's happening. And I've gotten my money on time every month. And
right. But we're not talking specifically about your scenario.
Yeah,
I want to do that just out of respect for you and your ex-husband and everything
yeah,
else, right? But I think, because remember, I don't think you need to extrapolate like one example, one situation. I think the big picture data would be important to look at, right? You look at divorces. There've been a lot of messy divorces. A lot of them go through courts. And then you got a lot of people who never get married, and they have their drama that involves children, right? So it seems to me that whichever poison you pick, it's going to be challenging either way. And it seems to me that what you're saying is that the goal is to engage with someone where, if you have a departure of ways, you can do it in a way that's amicable. Am I right?
So what I was saying is that you don't have to go through the courts. The courts are only there if it's a divorce or if it's just a baby mom situation or whatever. You go through the court when you can't talk anymore. So you can come up with an arrangement. It doesn't have to be through the state or whatever. I know, because you mentioned through the state with your situation. It doesn't have to be through the state. You can just sit with them and just decide, hey, let's decide how much money you're going to give. Okay, it'll be this. Okay, that's what we decided. And then that's it. It's only when the communication breaks down between the parents that you have to get lawyers and go through the court, but you don't ever have to go through the court. So child support is not something, it's something that you're entitled to, of course, if you're the custodial parent, but you don't have to ever go through the court system.
Yeah, well, I do agree that it's ideal to not have to, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, I think that there are some scenarios, like I know, for example, if it seems to me like if you have a parent that's on public assistance, don't they require, like, you can't be on welfare and then say, I'm not putting my child's father on child support. A lot of courts will make you do it, that they require you to do it, right? And so, but then that all leads back to the whole ethical conversation of just, what does it mean to really structure a family? What does it mean to decide to have a child together? You can't do it without thinking the process through, because if you don't go into it with intentionality, then you're going to ruin those kids. You're going to create a lot of chaos. It's going to be a lot of problems for everybody. The mother's in poverty, the father's in poverty, the child's in poverty, and everybody's damaged, So maybe healthy families is a solution to a lot of these problems. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure, it's a solution. And I also think that, I think we need to get rid of this myth that the non-custodial parent, will just say the father, is paying child support and the mom is just getting over. I think we need to get rid of that, because in actuality, that's not true. That myth has been tested. That's why it's a myth. There was a study, and I think I sent you a couple of those studies, but there was a study done on how much money does the custodial parent pay for this child versus what the mom gets from child support. And in looking at how much money comes out of the pocket, the mother pays way more to the child than she receives in child support. So you get over just writing a check and being able to write a check and just be like, I'm done for my month. You get over, because in actuality, how much it costs to raise a child is way more than you get in terms of compensation for child support. So there are a lot of moms who get child support and it is not enough.
Well, you know what? And I agree with that point, because I agree with you. I mean, I've had to stop young ladies, that I've mentored, when they would say things like, I don't make him pay child support because he buys shoes for the baby and diapers and stuff like that. And I was like, well, can the baby eat shoes? Are they able to, does that feed that child every day? Are they eating diapers for dinner? Like, there's a lot of expenses, not to mention your time that goes into raising the child, right? So I'm not here to say that anybody necessarily gets over one way or the other, but it does seem like there's a perception on both sides that you just getting over, right? So if I'm at home with the kids and I can't live my life, I can't do anything because I got these 2 kids or whatever that I'm taking care of, and the bills each month are $2,000, you're sending me $200 a month, right? That's going to be really frustrating. That's going to make me say, you're getting over. You're out here living your life. You went out and had some more kids with somebody else. You could do whatever you want. and you're mad that you're sending me $200 a month, but my bills are $2,000. I get that, right? I think that should really be heard. I don't think a lot of people hear that. And then though, I've seen the other side, right? I've seen where you have men, especially when there's like an income differential. Like, you know, if you have a man that is doing pretty well financially, and let's say that the mother is for whatever reason not at the same economic level, so the man's writing a big old gigantic big fat check every month, and that check is literally enough money. I've seen this happen. You know, I had a friend that was doing pretty well, and he said the amount of money I send for my child, he said, number one, I don't get to decide what happens to that money. He said, number two, that's more than all of her bills put together. So I'm paying all the bills for the whole entire house, and her boyfriend is living there with her, right? And I remember he had a lot of resentment because of that, and I totally understood that too, right? So I think, because I remember he was fighting for custody. He was like, I want to just have my child in my house and be more of a father, as opposed to simply just writing a check anyway. But it was hard for him to do that. He wasn't able to you know. So I think that, you know, I think that all those sides have to be heard. And I think the side for men, I'm gonna stand up for the men right now on this.
That's a really good illustration. That's a really good illustration you gave. But the thing with the study, when the study I'm looking at, it looked at a composite. Here's what's happening overwhelmingly, was that scenario you just said is an outlier, you know. So typically, you know, it's an outlier. The scenario you just painted is an outlier, but in general, it is the case where the mom is spending a lot more money on the child, way more money on the child than they're ever getting from the father.
Well, that's definitely. I mean, I definitely think that those stories you're describing, the norm according to the study, valid. Completely valid, right? The outliers are also valid, right? All of it is valid, right? And I think that it's sort of a matter of figuring out, where do I lie on that spectrum? You know, am I the typical situation, or am I in an outlier scenario, or what? And I really think that, you know, when you really break it down to the core, what we're really seeing here is that it is painful as shit to have a family where, you know, if you're a man, you got kids spread out everywhere, and you're trying to figure out a way to pay for all this in terms of time and money. Or as a woman, you know, raising those kids by yourself, that is hard. That's really hard to do. And so the question, I think, you know, really, if we're as an individual trying to come up with solutions, is to say, how do you avoid that? You know, what do you do? You know, do you pick your dating preferences differently? You know, I've always even said, again, but I'm a 50-year-old, so I see things different, right? So I've even said to like young people, like, why don't you like ask that person what their value systems are, so that you're not raising a child like before you even lay down with that person. Like, we think sex is just fun and it's all about the orgasms and all that, but babies come from that, right? So if you are disconnecting your dating preferences to your life outcomes, then I think that makes you extremely vulnerable to having a horrible life. Like, you got to connect the two. You got to connect the first day, you know, the first date to 5 years down the line when you're raising little Paquan all by yourself, you know. And I'm thinking that if I'm vulnerable because of that, like, so as a man, I'm gonna look beyond, you know, the shape of her body and how pretty she is. I need to find out, what kind of woman are you, because I need to know what kind of woman might be raising my child. If I'm a woman and I know I might be stuck with babies that nobody's paying for, well, I need to know, what do you think about the role of the father in the life of a child? Do you feel like that's important? Tell me about your father. Tell me about your life. Tell me about your other kids. You know, like, I would want to know these things before I even give you the chance to hem me up with a bunch of kids that ain't nobody taking care of but me. But maybe that's, I don't know. Is that too difficult for people to do? I don't know. What do you think?
I think that the biggest takeaway from today is, try to do whatever you can in your power to have a positive, productive relationship with the other parent of your child. So if you have your child's mother or your child's father, do whatever you can in your power to continue to maintain a good relationship with that person. And you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the betterment of the child. The child needs to see you get along. The child needs to see you on the same page. And you just need to have a frank conversation with them. Say, you know what? I don't care about you being mad at me. Yes, it's over between the two of us. Now let's just figure out what we can do for the best interest of the children. And that's it. You have to grow up, put your differences aside, and figure out how to get along. And if you don't get along, you need to just suck it up, apologize, get back on board for the best interest of the child, because you don't want your children growing up being miserable.
All right, there we go. Kids first, right?
Kids first. Don't give up.
You know, that like that.
Have setbacks.
And I think that's I think that's right. That's the game to play, right? Where you say, look, the children matter more than me. That's it. And then I think you got to make sure you have children with people who are playing the same game as you, because you're trying to take the high road and you're trying to put the kids first, but you're dealing with a partner who isn't thinking that way. It just kind of dissolves and ends up undermining the ability to even create a safe, nurturing, loving environment for the children. A lot of our children are messed up because their parents can't get it together, you know, because parents can't stop fighting, and it's very hurtful for those kids. And it's just one of those terrible.
I've seen it firsthand with my families who are in family court. They're in family court for years trying to figure out the parenting plan. They can't decide on anything. And then you get all sorts of people involved. You have to pay for me to come in and give my 2 cents because two parents can't get along. It is really sad. And I'm telling you, the children do suffer. I've seen it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's like, you know, when you think about how many parents out here don't love their children, you know, in that way, you know, it's almost like that short-sighted thinking creates like almost like a community, a part of our community where we almost behave as crazy as drug addicts, because sex is the drug, right? You know, if we were, you know, if I was a rapper on here talking about my baby's mamas and I was playing some old sex and club music or whatever, or you were some woman shaking your ass in every direction, you know, then we would have a whole lot more people listening, right? Because the appeal of the sex and all that is very, and you know, it's seductive for people. People like that. They like the feel good and the cool factor, going to the club, having the girls want to lay with you, you know, being in the sexy dress.
Exciting. I mean, it's exciting.
It is exciting.
It's exciting, right?
It is very exciting, right? Sex with no responsibility is very enticing, right? And I think that if you really care about Black people, you have to care about the idea of family and community and how important family structure is to the development of a healthy community. So I almost think that if you are so hung up and strung out on short-sighted thinking and pleasure-seeking behavior, you can't possibly consider yourself to be truly pro-Black. You're not pro-Black because you're not willing to make any of the sacrifices or have any of the discipline necessary to do right by other Black people, even the ones that are related to you, even your own damn kids. You're not doing right by your kids when you are laying down with any girl with a big butt and a smile. You're not doing right by your kids when you're letting any old raggedy man into your bedroom because the sex is good. You're harming their children. And it hurts people's feelings when I talk about it that way, but I think that we have to have those direct discussions so you can really understand that part of the reason, about 70-80% of the reason your community is so easily oppressed is because your families are just all over the damn place. That's just my 2 cents. That's Uncle Boyce talking.
And it's sad because I think that you have so much hope for these relationships. I really do think that people are just looking for love in all the wrong places. I really do feel that way. And I don't even know if people are conscious of it, but they really want someone to love them. And I think that's the best way for them to do that. It's just to find it. And it's when you're looking outside of yourself for that validation, I need to be with him. Let me be with him and I'll be all right. You know, you think that your problems will be solved and you just want somebody to love you. And I think that's what keeps people coming back. The drug is the love.
Well, for me, the drug wasn't the love. The drug was, you know.
But that's the thing. That's what's sustaining.
Yeah, the love matters, right? And we love all of y'all, and we love the fact that y'all took the time to hang out with us today. And I love you, you beautiful black lady on the other side of the screen. And
Beautiful on the inside is what I want you to say.
there we go. You're beautiful on the outside and the inside. All right, everybody. Well, it was great talking to you. And if you want to follow Alicia, if you're on Instagram, you can follow Alicia at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. Also, her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. So feel free to go take a look at that. Alicia is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And me, I'm a finance guy. You guys know that. And my website is boycewatkins.com. So this is a special episode of Pillow Talk where we didn't do audio laying in our bed, actually doing video. We decided to look you face to face. So God bless you. Have a good day, everybody. Love you. And we'll see you soon. Take care now.